The following video contains language that may be inappropriate for young viewers. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Welcome to Behind the Bars, where we bring the unseen and the unheard stories from the depths of the prison system to the forefront. I'm your host, Jason Boss, and together we'll explore the madness, the chaos, and the harsh realities hidden behind the steel doors of prisons worldwide. From the local jailhouse to death row across the world, we'll show you the isolation, the seclusion, and the decades spent enduring unimaginable conditions. These are the stories of survival, struggle, and humanity in places most of us will never see. We're here to shine a light on what society often forgets, the voices of the incarcerated. Each story is real, each voice is authentic, and every moment reveals the raw, unfiltered truth of life behind the bars. Join me for a journey like no other, a journey into the darkness, the truth, and the resilience of the human spirit. This is Behind the Bars, real life, real stories. Hi everybody, my name is Jason Boss, and you are on the record with Behind the Bars, and I have with me a good friend and a now free man, Noe Gonzalez Jr., who has done, I believe, half of his life in prison. And I have this brother with me right now, and I'm so thankful that he's willing to join me on Behind the Bars. Noe Gonzalez Jr., how you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How you doing?
Good, brother. I am good, man. Thank you so much for hanging out and talking. And so this is just a free chat. You know, you and I are just going to be chit-chatting about life before prison, you know, middle of prison, and where you are right now. And first and foremost, I want to say congratulations. You're 14 days free right now. Is that correct?
The days are moving so fast, I can't even keep count. Something like that.
January 2nd, this guy has made parole. And how many years did you do on this bid right here before you made parole?
I did 12 and some months, 2 or 3 months or something.
Wow. So that was a long time. Is that the longest stint you have ever done?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So take me through, you know, you've lived pretty much most of your life in prison. Is that correct?
Yeah, I started my first bid 2005. I was 25 years old. Did 2 years for adult charge. Got out, caught another case. They tried to get me for attempted murder charge. I actually beat the case because the guy didn't show up for trial, and they couldn't find a weapon, and they couldn't pinpoint me at the scene of the crime. So he threw it out. I stayed about 18 months in the county, and then about a month later, I got caught with a gun. Went on the run, and for a little while, and got caught eventually, and did another 3 years. Got out 2010, the end of 2010. Stayed out till October the 26th, 2012, I think it was. The end of October.
Mm-hmm.
And the 26th. And did 12 years.
Wow. That is a long, long time, my brother. Now, take me through this. You say 2005, you were 25 years old. What led you, you know, what had preceded this, you know, coming up in your life to the point of being 25? What was your life like? What were you doing prior to this? Where did you, I guess in retrospect, where do you think that you went wrong with the course of things inside of life?
Well, I have to go back to when I was about, I'm going to say 16, 17 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because something happened to me back then that, like, made me not care about anything or anybody. And it was pretty rough at the time. I didn't understand it. But a lot of it, too, had to deal with the fact that, you know, growing up as a child, as a kid, my dad being from Mexico, And my mom, she was born in California. We were poor, you know. I didn't really have much, but I didn't feel like it. You know, I felt like I had everything I wanted. You know, my dad worked, you know, sold a little bit of drugs. And I think that was what helped me to understand the fact that I could make money, because what I did was, when I was like 13 years old, I actually stole some weed from my dad, right? And started selling a little bit of weed in school and making a little bit of money. I bought my first pair of name brand shoes. I had to hide it from my mom and dad so they wouldn't see them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, when I was like, I want to say I was 17 years old, because I was junior in high school. My girlfriend got pregnant, right? I played baseball for the school. She played volleyball, and somehow she lost the baby when she was like 8 months pregnant, right? And the doctors couldn't explain it. We don't know what happened. We were actually at school when she was having these pains, and the ambulance came and everything. And but so like after that, everything went downhill for me. I dropped out of school. You know, I blamed her. I blamed everybody else. I blamed God, you know, Elohim. And it was hard because I didn't know what to think. And my whole family and her family, and, you know, we had 2 baby showers. We had all this stuff for the baby, 2 cribs, all kinds of, my whole room was full of stuff, right? And it was just one of those things that, you know, it kind of like traumatized me. I didn't know what to think, but I didn't care. You know, after that, I didn't care about anything.
Now,
So,
were you were at home at that time with mom and dad and you were 16?
Yeah, I want to say I was like 16 or 17. Yeah, I don't even remember anymore.
Wow, I am so sorry, bro. I had no idea. So you kind of just gave it all up at that point and decided to, you know, you went from, I mean, small time, you know, a hustler in school, you know, all the way to you just don't care. And then what happened from there? What happened, you know, 16 and beyond?
So being that, you know, my dad is from Mexico, and I have cousins, right, that like would bring me stuff, or I would meet them. I would actually go down to Laredo and go get a whole bunch of whatever and bring it back. And I had a nice little thing going on, right, considering the fact, right, back then at the time, at least I thought it was, right. And what's crazy about it is that it was just something that came about. Like, it wasn't something that I just planned. Just, you know, it just kind of happened that way. And yeah, but basically what I did was I got a group of guys together, you know, put me a team together, and that just took off from there.
You were just bringing in just whatever it was, and this was what year was this that you were? This was so you were.
I was probably about, well, by this time I was already out of the house, so I was probably about maybe about 20 years old.
You're hustling and grinding, and these guys are selling whatever. Now, are you just bringing it in, and these guys are selling it, or is everybody going in, and you guys are just going in for like a bigger quantity, or what was that going on? How did you work that?
Well, it was pretty intense, right? And I was young, but it was just one of those things where, like, I tried to hide it as best as I could, right? Like, I disguised it with like cars together and making it seem like we had a car club, and, you know, and try to hide it, right? But it was too obvious, you know, like, the crazy part about it is that there was a lot of people that didn't know, but there was a lot of people that did know. But hey, but to answer your question, it was like I had everybody else doing everything. I was just like bringing it, you know, like, and not only that, we were shipping it out of state. So that's where I made most of my money, is out of state. Everything here was just like for the moment. Everything else was like to get rich, you know.
Big cash. Right. So what state was this that you were local in, and what state did you move these drugs to?
Okay, so I'm from Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And man, I think I drove to Santa Fe, New Mexico about 2-3 different times. I knew some people in Oklahoma City. Went to Kansas City, Kansas a couple of times. Went to Louisiana, New Orleans, like 3 different times with a friend of mine that she died already. I know a couple of people in Mississippi that I met and actually in Dallas. And that's a crazy story. But yeah, so it's just basically like all the states around Texas.
And what was the main transport? What was it? Was it weed or was it coke? What was it?
Yeah, both.
Both.
Right.
And so you were just, how did you package this stuff? Was it just, did you roll around and it just was really smelly, or how did you try to disguise the stuff? I know you said in cars, but how did you move mass amounts when you were moving state stuff?
Grease, baby powder, and mustard.
And you think that stops the dogs from being able to smell?
And one of them towels, like them towels you put in the dryer.
Oh yeah. Right.
Those.
Now, did you ever?
I don't know if it does, but we did it.
Now, have you ever been pulled over with that formula, and did it work?
No, actually, never. I've never been pulled over.
Huh.
I've never had a driver's license.
Oh wow, that's incredible. So I mean, you were doing kamikaze runs then.
Yeah, but I always had like we took 2 different cars, and I would take somebody to drive the car, and I would follow behind another car.
Okay, and then if you got, what was the gig with that? How did that work out? Why were the 2 cars?
Well, just because people were willing to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm paying them about anywhere between $7,000 to $12,000 for a drive.
Oh wow! And how much were you picking up during this? And what was the point of the car behind? You were just following the 2 guys that were transporting the majority of it? Is that what you were doing?
There's actually girls, but yeah, just because I wouldn't have it on me because they had it all. I was just behind them.
And what was the plan if, like, a cop pulled you over? Were they just supposed to go somewhere and just continue on? And were you going to pull over? Were you going to go crazy when the cops pulled over? What was your plan if you got pulled over?
Oh yeah, that was definitely right. So I always rode in the passenger seat. I didn't actually drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that was to happen, then yeah, we'd make a scene or swerve crazy or whatever to get the laws. They like to have them pull us over instead of them or whatever, just a distraction.
Right. Okay, so you're 20 years old, roughly around there. You did your first bid at 25. You were just taking me through that all the way to that very first arrest. What were you doing? Were you doing the same kind of stuff? How did you go wrong? How did you get busted? What happened?
I actually caught my first charge when I was 21.
Oh, okay.
But I went on the run and moved to Dallas for let me see, I caught my charge in I think it was 2001 or 2002. I don't remember.
Okay.
I want to say the end of 2001. Yeah, because it was cold. And then what happened was I ended up moving with some friends of mine to Arlington, and it's right outside of Dallas, right between Dallas and Fort Worth.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed there all the way till the end, right? Like, let me see, it was 2, 3, 4, yeah, 2002, 2003, 2004, and in the process, I was coming back to Waco, right? Because I couldn't get a job. I was on the run. I couldn't. Every time I would go, to an interview or whatever, they would do a background check and it would show that I was pending court or whatever, and so that nobody would hire me.
Mm.
So what ended up happening was, because I was in Dallas and everybody was here in Waco, what I started doing was I just started leaving it to everybody else here, and then I would just come get some to take back for myself just so I could survive out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived with a couple of females, and that's how I was living. And I actually got my mother's son pregnant. I came to party with my sisters for my sister's birthday. It was something happened right that I came down here to party, and I rented a motel and threw a party. We went out, and then that night everybody came back to the motel, and so my son was born 9 months later.
Mm-hmm.
And then actually he was actually due on my birthday, so I was calling my baby mama to see what's up with the baby, and she had already had him like 10 days earlier, so he was born January 7th. Actually, tomorrow's my birthday. Yeah, it is. That's crazy.
Mm.
So, and it was that same day when I found out that she had already had him, I came to Waco, and I stayed here for 2 weeks, and after that, somehow the Waco PD found out that I was in Waco, and they came to where I was at, and they arrested me.
Okay.
Surrounded the house.
And so that was in 2000. That was in 2005.
Yeah, that was in 2005.
And this was at your dad's house.
Yeah.
And so you're home. Do you remember what day it was or what time of year?
Man, it had to have been, my son was a baby. He was just born, so it had to have been in January. I mean, or February, something like that. It wasn't long after. It wasn't long. Oh, wait. No, it wasn't. It was after that, because I came here for a couple of weeks, and then I went back to Dallas, and I was coming back and forth after he was born. And then it might have been like in March or May of 2005, maybe June. I don't really remember. It was towards the beginning of the year, like the first middle half, before the half of the year. Might have been March, maybe May. I don't remember.
Okay. Now, take me through the raid on the house. A lot of people have never survived a raid. I actually had my house raided down in South America.
Yeah, it wasn't a raid. It actually wasn't a raid. It was just the police, right? Like, okay, so what happened was I actually, on the way coming into Waco, right, I used to drink a lot of we call it drink, right? Methylene and codeine. And I had some, and I was drinking it on the way here, and I actually fell asleep at the wheel and hit the curve right here, like 2 blocks from my dad's house. And so the rims on my car were messed up. They messed both of them up. I actually drove my car like that to his house. And as I was changing my tires, I went to go get some factory tires for my car to put them in my car, because I had some of them big old rims on my car, and I went to the tire shop, got 4 tires. Well, I was putting them on my car. I already had 2 of them on, and I was taking the other 2 off. So, and Waco PD just like 6 laws just pulled up in front of my dad's house out of nowhere. I tried to run. I was about to run, take off running, but my dad grabbed me, right? He just grabbed me, and I was like, at first I thought he was the one that called the laws, but he said he didn't do it. But, it was pretty messed up about that, really, because my son was just born, and I wasn't ready to do time at that moment. But I knew I had to, because I had already been running from it for years.
Right.
It wasn't, and what's crazy is it wasn't even anything that was mine that I got busted with. I actually got busted with something that was in my car that I didn't know was in there, that was in somebody's jacket that belonged to somebody else. And I got charged with it.
And what were the charges? What were all your charges in 2005?
It was just a possession of cocaine. Under a gram. Oh, no, it was like barely over a gram.
Okay. And
or maybe
that's where you did 2 years at that point?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, before we go into like the very first part of this, can you tell me a little bit about your drug use? When did you take your first hit of anything, and how did that occur? When did that occur?
Man, I was like, I think the first thing I ever did was smoke weed, the gateway. gateway drug.
And when
I was probably like 11, 12 years old. I was with a friend of mine that lived right around the block from me, and his brother-in-law, which was a little guy was older than us, was sister's boyfriend or whatever. He used to smoke weed all the time, man. We were sitting outside. I don't remember what we were doing, but he was out there and he was doing something in his car, and he was smoking, and you know, you know, me and him, we were trying to be cool or whatever. So, hey, man, let me hit that, man. Yeah, what you smoking? Right? And yeah, that was the first time I got high.
Now, the first time you did get high, did you actually get high? Because a lot of people that smoke weed the first time, it doesn't hit it. It takes a couple times.
Yeah, I did. I remember because I hit it a bunch of times because he was smoking a big old blunt, right? And I choked every time I hit it because we smoked the whole thing with him. And all I remember really is just laughing.
So at 11, you think roughly around 11, you started with that. So how often did you, from 11 years old, was it daily use, weekly, or what was your usage at?
No, I didn't actually start smoking weed like that until I was maybe like 14 or something.
Okay.
13, because I would steal the weed from my dad, right? But I wouldn't smoke it.
Right.
I wouldn't smoke it. I would sell, you know, little joints and nickels and little dime sacks or whatever, and that was it. Like I never really smoked it.
And how did you find your clients back when you were a kid? Or just go to the stoner looking kids, or school?
Yeah, school. School.
Nice. And I mean, how did you find clients in school? Was it just the preppy kids, or was it the stoner kids?
No, you'd be surprised, man. Like, because I played sports, right, in school, so I was always into like football or whatever, and so I would just tell people like, "Hey, man, what's up? You know anything about weed?" Or like I'd ask them like, "Hey, man, you know somebody who's got some weed?" And that's how I was started. I would ask them if they knew somebody, and then they would like introduce me to somebody or whatever, and then I would be like, "Well, I got this," you know.
Nice. Okay, so when did you step up to something harder? When did you try the next drug?
I've never really just did drugs, right? Like, I mean, I tried cocaine when I was probably like 17, 18 years old, but I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it made me feel. It wasn't something that I, at the time, even like, I was like, I think it was what it was at that time, at that moment when we were doing it, we did it that whole night and it was horrible the next day. And after that, I was just like, no, I don't like it. I don't want it. You know, I mean, as I was doing it, it was freaking me out, right? Because I was paranoid. It made me feel uncomfortable. Like I didn't like the way it made me feel.
And you never tried anything else? Mushrooms, hallucinogens?
I've tried all drugs, except I've never done heroin. I've never smoked crack, but I've experimented with, you know, ecstasy and shrooms, acid, and MDMA. They call it Molly, you know. But my preference was downers. I like downers, like
opioids.
I used to. No, there wasn't really too much of that back then. I mean, I didn't really care for pills. I don't like taking pills. Never have really. But no, drank.
And so you got loving the liquor. Was that a big thing?
No medicine.
Medicine. Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Cough syrup.
Yeah, permitted thing with codeine. Back then it was called bar.
Yeah, Little Boozy raps about that. I don't even know if you ever heard of that dude before, but he homeboy sits there always talking about the medicine and the drinks and stuff, some stuff from back in the days. Now, you just basically just been into all of this stuff. Did your dad know that you were into this stuff, and what did he say?
I smoked my first joint with my dad when I was like 20 years old, or 19, 20 years old. And at the time, he wasn't selling drugs or nothing. anymore. Like, he had already quit all that. But when he found out that I was doing it, he didn't know to what extent, right? Like, thing about it is though, there was other people, that was doing their own thing too. But like, I tried to hide it as best as I could. And but when my dad found out, like, he just was like, man, you need to be careful or whatever. And but I wasn't living at home anymore. I had already moved. I moved out the house when my mom and dad got divorced. So before they got divorced, actually, because I didn't want to, deal with all that at that time.
What?
Like 17. It was like when I dropped out of high school, I just moved out the house.
Oh, okay. Wow. Okay, so you were on your own for a long time.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so take me to 2005. This is your first bid through. You went back into county, right? Right after you got arrested.
Yeah.
And then you worked. How long were you in county? That you were working through your way through your. Did you take it to a trial or did you just do a plea deal?
No. I sat in the county for about 4 or 5 months, and then I went from there.
Okay, so you did a plea deal on your charges.
Yeah. I pleaded guilty. I couldn't fight it.
All right, so tell me about your first moments in the prison. From the county jail. It's a different experience, right? County jail is a.
I was scared, man, because of everything that I had heard, right? So when you go into Texas through here, I went through gurney unit, right? And here in Texas, they call it butt naked gurney, right? And the reason is because as soon as you get off the bus, you get nuts to butts, like literally standing right in front or right behind somebody, like you're damn near touching them, right? And it's crazy because for a long time they used that system. Like, they would literally, like, if you're like, when you're living there, they literally would stop you and on the run. We call it the bowling alley, right? And just tell you to get out of them, just get naked, and you like butt naked right there on the run. You know what I mean? It was crazy. But now the unit shut down now, but then they ended up putting up like, I guess, like blocker things where you just stand in it and then they strip you out.
Mm.
But for a long time, it wasn't like that.
Yeah, so that's something that completely, that I remember from experience of the strip search and having them, strip you, pull your cheeks apart, all that crap. It's completely demoralizing. Like, it's like one of these things that it's really hard to explain to the outside people that have never been through something of that. But it changes a person, I believe, based upon the times that I was strip searched when going from county jail to prison. Is this this is one of these things, and I talk to my brothers on death row a lot, and they sometimes are strip searched up to 8 times a day. If they have to, every single time they move, if they go to rec, they have to completely strip search. They completely strip down, then they strip up. When they leave the rec room, they strip down and they go back up full on. And okay, yeah. So this is, a lot of people don't understand this. A lot of people don't understand the pravity that goes, in, and there's really no reason for a tremendous amount of strip searches like this. I just think it's just a psychological warfare or something on humanity, but it's something I'll never forget. Okay, so continue on. You were in the thing. They're stripping you down. You get off the bus. What happens all the way to your first night?
Okay, so what happens is, you go through this process, right? They process you in. They take your fingerprints. They make you sign these papers. They put you in these cages like dogs, right? And they shave your head bald. They make you like, I don't know, some type of disinfectant or like bug stuff or something, and they make you put it on, wherever you have pubic hair, your underarms, everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you take a bath in this stuff, and then, you see medical, you see what they call sociology. They do just like get a bunch of information from you, and they take a picture for the ID.
Mm-hmm.
It's a long. It takes like half the day
Mm-hmm.
before you make it actually make it from that point to where, you know, you get your mat and whatever else you got and they house you. So it's a whole day process.
Now, were you scared as you were exiting the bus? What was your thought? What were you ready for?
Well, considering all the stories I had heard, right, and I only weighed like $130, so I grew up boxing, right. My dad trained us, me and a couple of friends of mine on the block, and we just kept on doing it, right. So I've always been like not so much of a brawler because I don't brawl, but like punching things, right? Like I always punched on things.
Mm-hmm.
Which is one of the reasons why I was in so much trouble because I had a bad habit putting my hands on people. So, yeah, like I expected it, right? I knew it was gonna come. I went in there like ready to fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was scared. Don't get me wrong. And like, you know, they tell you as soon as you put your mat, you know, as soon as you get in there, put your mat down. Before they used to tell you go in there and go push the biggest guy in there, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
They tell you.
Yeah.
It's not really like that, right? So what it is your own people are gonna hit you up. You're white, the white guy's gonna hit you up. You're black, the black guy's gonna hit you up. If you're Hispanic, the Mexican guys are gonna hit you up, right? So it's all organizations, it's all gangs, it's all, you know, they're trying to find out who you from, who you rolling with, where you're from, you know, what you claiming, all that. And being that when I first got there was actually a couple of people from my city, dudes that I knew in the streets that were in the same dorm that I was in. And they had already, you know, became gang members and they were affiliated or whatever. So they gave me the rundown and I was just like automatically like, yeah, come on, I'm with it. Whatever, I'll do whatever. You know what I'm saying? And then that's how it went. It was stupid, right?
So you essentially joined a gang when you got to prison, which, I mean, you said the whites hit you up, and those guys are like the white pride, the Aryan brothers, the you know, I don't know, you know, I don't know, the outside people really know who they are, but there's an ideology of inside prison where there's whites and blacks and, you know, I guess Mexicans. Which gang group or what did you join exactly? What color?
Hi, everybody. My name is Jason Boss, and I'm the host of Behind the Bars. First, I want to thank you for watching, sharing, and supporting our channel. This project means the world to us because it's about giving a voice to the unheard, the men and women behind the bars who share their raw, unfiltered stories of life, mistakes, redemption, and lessons learned. But here's the reality. Because of the nature of our content, Behind the Bars will never be monetized by YouTube, and that's okay. We're not doing this for the money, but to keep telling you these stories, to keep bringing you interviews from across the plains, we need your help. Right now, we're sitting on over 15 incredible interviews that are waiting to be edited and shared. We've got the footage, but we need the resources. More interviews mean more editors, more work, and a bigger team to make this vision a reality. And that's where you come in. By becoming a Patreon today, you're not just helping bring us these stories to life, you're also getting exclusive access to behind the scenes conversations and untold stories that won't be available on YouTube. These are the moments that take you deeper into the lives of our interviewees, as well as the challenges and triumphs we face while we are creating this channel. If you've ever been moved by one of these stories, if you believe in the power of second chances and in a shining light on the human experience, please consider supporting us. With your help, we can reach further and roll out even more of the content you love. So from the bottom of my heart and from all of us here at Behind the Bars, thank you for being a part of this journey. Much love to you, y'all, and we'll see you in the next episode.
The Mexican guys hit me up, right? So back then, there was a lot of families walking around. Like now, there's not too much of that anymore. Now, a lot of the families, if they're known family members, they automatically seg them.
Mm.
Okay, so, but I ended up becoming part of what's called the blast, right? Tango blast. And it's pretty big. Like everybody from Houston, from Austin, from the Metroplex, Fort Worth, of Dallas, right, is their majority part of this. And it's like big. Like there's like a crazy number, right, of people that become a part of this. And being that we're, everybody from Waco, we roll with D-Town, with Dallas. So I was representing Dallas. But it was hard for me, right, because a lot of them guys, they don't accept just anybody, right? They won't just be like, nah, you ain't even from the city. Like, you can't, you're not. But so it's like one of those things where you had to, like, prove yourself. Like, you had to do the most. You know what I mean?
Blood in kind of stuff?
No. Just like, go out of your way to, like, show them that you're really down for this, for the cause. You know what I mean?
And I mean, that's taking care of business, right? Taking care of somebody else, or what would that include? How would you prove that to them?
Well, it's just like, there's different ways, right? I mean, what I think what it was for me was the fact that, like, they tell you, like, okay, well, they introduce you to it, right? But they don't actually put you down on what's called a transit unit. So it's not until you get to where, like, what's called an ID unit that you actually become a part of this, like, go through the initiation process. So it wasn't until I got to a little unit. It's called Havens Unit in Brownwood, Texas, right? And it was a small unit. I actually was blessed to go to that unit, even though I didn't even understand what that meant at the time. But being that it was one of these smaller units, I wasn't far from home, maybe like 2 hours, 2.5 hours. But it wasn't like how some of these bigger prisons are built, right? It's smaller, in the dorms, 64 people in the tank, type thing, versus being in a 2-man cell. It's different, right? The setup's different. When I got there was some guys from my city there. They were a part of this, and a lot of the guys that in the dorm that I fell out of, that I fell into, they were one of the main guys that was speaking for Fort Worth. He's the one that laced me up on everything and gave me a couple of days to decide whether I wanted to do this or not, be a part of this or not. And it didn't even take me 2 days. By the end of that night, I was like, yeah, come on, what's up, whatever. I'll do what I got to do. And that's how it happened, So, and really all it is what's called a quota check, right? A heart check. So you just got to fade either 2 people at a time, at the same time, or back to back, right? Or so many for a minute or whatever, piece or whatever. So, like, basically what we would do is we would go in the shower area and just, like, squabble it out, you know what I mean? And that's basically your initiation, right? But, I mean, it's crazy because it gets racial. It's very racial, and you can feel the tension, and you can't back down. You have to, stand up. You got to fight, because if not, you just get drove. They gonna beat you up anyway, and they throw you out. You gotta go. You know what I mean? That's how it is.
So, what did you pick? Did you pick 1v1, or did you take 2 guys?
2 at a time.
And how did that go?
It hurt.
Did you were able to fight them back as well, right?
Yeah, but I aimed for the bigger guy.
So how to go down? I mean, I'm sure this is probably the most scariest moment of your life to this point, right?
Well, yeah, considering I didn't know what I was about to get into.
Yeah, I mean,
it was. I'm always ready. Being that I did a little fighting growing up, right? You feel like you're ready for something, but 2-on-1 is not really fair, and it's, you're punching on one guy but getting punched by another guy.
Yeah. So how did that end up? How many minutes did that go on, or what was the end to that entire endeavor there?
I think it was like 45 seconds, right? And it was, man, I got pretty banged up, but I banged one of them guys up too pretty good. So, I was okay with it. Like, I hurt my rib. I felt like I cracked one of my ribs at the time, because the other guy was just hit me straight in the body and hit me on one side of the face because he was on my left side, so I was getting it from this side the most because I was aiming at the other guy on my right side.
Now,
Yeah, it got me pretty good, but
who's making the call to stop at whatever time they stopped? I mean, who's advising this?
it's time. It's somebody's watching. Somebody's watching out, and somebody's taking time.
And you guys could just somehow get out to the shower in this group, and then the pod wasn't able to see you guys?
No, it's like sectioned out. Like it's you can only fit so many people in there.
So after that moment, you were in this like gang. I mean, you were essentially protected to some level, right? I mean, if they wanted to mess with you, they were going to mess with the entire gang. Is that how that went?
Yeah, basically.
And so, do you think that was a good decision hanging with those guys? I mean, that was the only decision you could have made. I mean, if you stayed neutral and decided you weren't going to do any gangs, what would happen at that point? Who would take you, or what would happen?
I don't know. I mean, there was some solo guys in there, but they're like to themselves or being extorted or getting hogged, as we call it, right? So it just all depends if you're willing to stand up for yourself or not. I did a lot of stupid things in prison, man. Like the things that some things that, like on my second bid that we did that we were supposed to like be against, but for some reason it was one of those things where it just became a thing. And
can you explain that? Because that was pretty cryptic. What do you mean by that part right there?
Yeah. Okay, so like it's kind of messed up. Well, it is messed up, right? So like, okay, so extortion is something that people do for no reason at all, right? I've come to understand it's for no reason at all. It's basically there was a term that they used to use back then, but this is something that they use mostly in like the bigger units, like IDs, right? And this is not something that it's funny, but it's not funny because it's bad. It's sad, right? And I'm gonna say it, but I have to cuss.
That's right.
And this is the term. The term is you either fight, fuck, or bust a 50.
Mm.
So you have to give up one of them three.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So you either gonna fight, or you gonna fuck, or you're gonna bust a 50, and we're gonna let you make it.
Mm.
Like I used to do a little bit of that, right? Like extort people, and I really don't even know how that happened, but it was something that I was introduced to and was given an okay. And I guess because I had people behind me, it was something that, I kind of like looked forward to it because it gave me something to do. You know what I mean? It was not cool.
You were going shaking down other people essentially and taking their stuff, or what was the extortion? What's a common extortion that happens in prison like this?
Okay, so this is how it goes. The new guy comes in, you hit him up. He's not running with nobody. So, okay, what's up? Like, because even you come in there and you're solo, you still got to fight too. You're gonna get a solo check, and even if you don't, like, they're gonna beat you up and take your stuff anyway, and then tell you to pack your stuff and go, whatever you got left. So either way it goes, you're gonna fight, whether you become a part of something or not.
Right.
And if you don't, like, if you're not willing to fight and you come in with stuff, they're gonna take it, and you're gonna leave with just a max. That's it, and whatever the state gives you, everything else, that's still it.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of this. What you're saying, I've heard of stories of guys, not even on death row, but in general population in Texas, where there's certain, I don't know where they're at. There's certain prisons, and it's like it's an all black dorm, and they will send a white guy in there, and the black guys will just beat the living snot out of him. Like, you don't survive in that group. You get sent in there to get beat up, essentially as punishment. Now, real quick, so 2005, yeah, you did 2 years. 2007, you're out on parole at that point, and then what happens?
No, I discharged.
Discharged. You are fully off.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay, so then what happens when you catch your next case, and what was the next case?
My next case was possession of a firearm.
Felon in possession of a firearm?
Yeah.
Okay, and when was that? What year was that?
Yeah, 2008.
All right, so you get out of prison or you get discharged in 2007, and between 2007 and 8, that's like 1 year. What happened? You got out of the clink, and then you immediately started back into the world of craziness, or what happened? How'd you end up with a firearm?
I've always carried a gun.
Mm.
And, man, I used to take a gun to school when I was in high school. I had a pistol on me in my car that I had at the time, and I was with this female, and I had dope on me. She had dope on me, but they didn't find my dope. They found her dope. They didn't find my dope.
Mm.
But they did find my gun. I tried to hide it up under the dash, but the law seen me ducking in the car. So yeah, they found it. Went to jail. Yeah, that's how that happened.
So 2008, you caught the case. You go to jail. How long what did you just plead to that one as well?
Oh yeah, I was guilty.
Okay, and so what happened? 2008, you're sent back into the system, and then how many years did you do from here?
I did 2.5 on it.
Okay, that takes
2 years, and I only had like 5 months left on parole.
Okay, and then what happened?
And yeah, I got out in June or July of 2010, and then I got out. I was married. I got married in prison, actually.
Okay.
The woman I was with for a little while before I got locked up that time, she actually asked me to marry her.
Okay.
At visit.
Okay.
And it was crazy because she did it in front of everybody, and I was like, "Yeah, man, just get up, man. Just get up. You're making us look crazy." Loads of attention and clap. Crazy.
Wow. Okay, you're tripping, and she's like trying to be as romantic as she possibly can. You're trying not to get beat on your way back. She's like sitting there trying to just do some girly stuff. So that's cool. That's absolutely cool. And so this was a chick you knew before you got arrested, and then she visited you, and then she just popped the question. How did you get legally married, or how did that go down?
We did. We actually got married through the court, and then when I got out, we had a wedding, and it didn't last long. Actually, we only stayed married for. We only stayed together for about 7 or 8 months.
Okay.
And then split up.
It obviously didn't work out well. You guys, was it you or her, or it just wasn't meant to be?
Well, because when I got out, I didn't want to go back to selling drugs, but I ended up losing one of my jobs. So I was working 2 jobs at the time. We were together. And I got fired from one of my jobs because I didn't use my lockout tagout lot. And yeah, I got fired. So I got behind on rent, and she convinced me to sell dope. Like, the way that it happened was she actually went out of her way to go get it for me. And I didn't tell her to do it. And I was mad at her for doing it. And I actually made her go take it back, because what she gave me wasn't hardly anything, and the dude wanted too much for it, and I was like, how am I supposed to make money off of that? That's crazy. So what I did was I called a few people. I was like, okay, you want me to sell drugs? Okay, well, this is what I'm gonna do. Got on the phone, called a few people, and that's how it started.
And so you got it back into selling what? Is it just weed and coke again, or anything else?
No, I didn't really just. I only dealt with coke whenever I went out of town, out of state or whatever. I gave that to my homeboys here in the city. My thing was meth and weed.
Mm. Okay, so you were doing meth. When did you try meth for your very first time? When was that?
I got introduced to meth in the 90s. It was powder back then. We called it Mighty Whitey, or the peanut butter stuff, right? So I actually came up off of that. That's what I made the most money off of. And it was in 2002 I believe it was, maybe 2001 when I got introduced to ICE and took off from there.
Okay, and so you're talking ice. You're just talking like it's extremely good meth. I mean, it's like uncut meth is what I think what the cooks would call that. Is that what you're talking about with ice, or is it something else?
Back then, yeah, it was. Now I don't know. They said it's not the same though.
Yeah, man, they've gone crazy. They've gone crazy these days. Okay, so this chick you were married to convinced you to do some stuff. You called the homeboys, get it all fired up, get it all cranked up, and then did you have to go find new clients? I mean, how did you begin just selling meth?
I had always sold it, right? So I had been dealing with that since, man, 90, 98, 99. And I just, that was the main product for me. I didn't do it. I just sold it.
Wow, that's incredible. I've only known like a couple of guys who, the thing with meth is people always got lost in the product. And some of the most successful drug dealers I ever knew never touched the stuff. One dude back in the days was running a lawn mowing service, and the dude sold ounces just continuously, but he never touched it. He was just a regular business guy, and get a hold of him at 6 a.m. all the way to 6 at night, but no other time. So
yeah.
Okay, so you've never used that, but you were hanging with I always, when I hung around the meth people were always some of the most dishonest people out there. And so I'm sure you've encountered the tweakers. We always call them tweakers. The guys are always stealing everything. So were you dealing like small bags? Were you dealing big stuff, or what were you dealing to the people looking for meth?
Man, I lived by a motto, right? My motto was get every penny. So it didn't matter how much you had or what you had, if you were bringing me a TV or anything, and I looked at it and I liked it, I'll give you something for it. Man, I had so much stuff, stereo equipment for cars, for homes, TVs, man, jewelry. Man, I had so much stuff, man. I still do have some of that stuff. I don't have anything else, but I have stereo equipment.
So did you ever encounter these guys? In my days, it didn't matter where you were. If you left your house for one day, tweaker was going to come popping in your house and steal you blind. With all your stuff, were you ever getting robbed, or those guys coming back after you like that?
No,
never.
Wow. I never left my house by itself.
Wow. All right. So hit me to the next bid. When did this happen, and what's the next gig you did?
Okay, so from that point, going back to stealing drugs, I went full force, right? I would basically get my hands on anything that I could to make money off of. And at this time, it was different, like different, I say, as in like the times before, because this time I'm just like basically dealing with people like running people, like, it would be 20 pounds here, 30 pounds there, half a brick here, 9 ounces there, or whatever, right? And the reason was because I had so many people that called my phone. It was too much. I couldn't, move around fast enough. So I basically fronted people here and there, wherever, and it helped, but it was still crazy because I tried to make it seem like I was just a normal guy living a normal life, but
yeah,
I was in the street.
Right. So, it sounds like you were moving a ton of meth. Were you popping kilos of this stuff often, or how much were you moving around?
I wasn't the only one, right? But yeah, so it's crazy amount. Like, I can't actually say, right, but it was scary.
A lot. Yeah, definitely don't say anything that is going to bring anything around. Okay, wow, that's incredible. Okay, so how did you get busted? What happened from there to when? What were your charges on the next gig?
What happened was, at the time, I was with my son's mother for a little while, and like I had to wait every last week of every month for it to come, right? So I was waiting, and I had a guy that had another guy coming from somewhere in North Texas, and for some weed, and he was charging him a nice little number, and I didn't have anything to give him. So I was trying to get something, and like it didn't even matter from who it was, right? I was just trying to get something for him for this specific thing right here because he had already like had like was about made the deal. So anyway, my baby mama said she knew a guy, and anyway, he never called back. He never called back. 2 or 3 days go by, he never called. Finally, once on a Saturday, he calls out of nowhere. Right, I've been waiting for him for a week. I don't know the guy. Well, at least I don't know him. I know his family though. Anyways, that morning, I remember I left the house to go get some food, something to eat, and she calls me. Right, I'm the drive through at this barbecue place, and she's like, "Hey, the dude said he's on his way." I was like, "Yeah, whatever, man. You've been saying that for a week or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
I blew it off. So I'm on my way back to the house, and she calls me back. Like, "Hey, man, the dude, he's on his way. He called me back." You know what I'm saying? And I was like, "All right, whatever." So I was about halfway there. So I get there, and I'm eating. Right, I ate my whole meal. She jumps in the shower. My son is feeding these little cats on the side of the house, like weenies and bologna and stuff. I'm like, "Man, Joseph, you're gonna kill these cats," you know what I mean? Anyway, so he's running in and out the house, leaving the door open, and I'm yelling at him like, "Hey, man, close the door. Your mom's got the air on." Da, 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 da. Well, I ate or whatever. I started rolling, you know, leaning out the stove. I don't know what I was. I was sitting at the round table. At this round table, I had a professional sized pool table in my living room, and the door opens up. Right, I'm in the dining area, and the door never closes, but I'm yelling, right, like, "Hey, man, close the door, close that door." So the door closes, and I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I feel somebody standing behind me. So what happens is I look and I turn around, and somebody clocks me upside the head. Boom, right? And I was like, "Oh man." So out of instinct, I just get up. It knocked my glasses off, right? My glasses fell off, so I couldn't see. Anyways, so what I did was I got up, and there's a dude standing in my living room. So I grabbed the pool ball and I hit him with it. Bow, upside his head, right? And I started stomping him and stomping him and stomping him and stomping him until I hurt my foot, and I switched feet and I started stomping him more. So I tied the dude up in the living room, and like I went blank, right? Because what I was gonna do was I was gonna throw him in the back of his own trunk, take his car out to the country and burn it, right? But I'm glad I did it. So anyways, my baby mama comes out running like, "Oh my God, what are you doing? This is what happened? Why did you do this?" And then I'm like, "Man, shut up. You try to set me up." You know what I'm saying? And I almost took off on her, but you know, she ran to the back into the restroom, whatever, because she only had a towel on. She had just got out the shower, whatever. Anyway, the dude comes out. I wake him up, right? Slapped him around a couple of times, woke him up. You know, I'm yelling at him like, "Man, who the hell are you? Why the hell you do this, man? Why you just come in my house?" Da, 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 da. Like, I untied him, you know, and let him go. I let him go, right? So in my mind, I'm thinking to myself like, okay, this dude's gonna come back, right? And I carried at the time, a 45 and a 9. But I would carry 2 pistols, right? So I was expecting for him to come back. I called a couple of my partners, whatever, bring the AK, the AR, the 9mm assault rifle, bring whatever you got, man. And so we posted up in my house for about 3 days, and nobody ever came. I found out who it was. I know his brothers. I know his family. So, I mean, if somebody did that to my brother, I'm coming. You know what I'm saying? Because, I did him in pretty good. Anyway, so nothing ever happened. Nobody ever came. But my baby mama took my son and went to her mama's house. And so I had the house to myself for like about a month. So I partied for like a month. And so anyways, I ended up going out one night, and I remember I didn't come home that night. Well, my baby mama, she wasn't staying there. She had been staying with her mom. So anyways, I come to the house one day and my key don't fit. My key wouldn't fit in the door. I was like, man, what the heck? So I went around to the back door. Key wouldn't fit in the back door either. I was like, man. So I called her like, hey, what's up, man? Did you change the lock? She's like, yeah. So she changed the locks on me, right? I was like, okay, cool, whatever. So that night, I couldn't get in or whatever, but me and one of my homeboys, we went out. We went to the club, you know what I'm saying? We, did whatever. And then, I caught up with some females, and I met another female, and then, I ended up with a female, and the next day ended up with another female, and then I started shacking up with this female, and then all of a sudden I'm staying with this girl, and I lived there with her for about a month, maybe, before the U.S. Marshals came after me. And I remember we were leaving the house, and I had my backpack, I had some clothes I was about to take to the cleaners and go pick up some clothes from the cleaners at the same time, and they swarmed us. And I don't know how she did it, but she squeezed in between these cars, and we took them on a high-speed chase, and we got away.
Wow.
The next morning, man, I had so much stuff in that house, man. I'm talking about crazy. So I had her bring everything to me where I was at, except I had a folder inside of one of my sock drawers that had some money in it, and I had one of my cars in her garage. So my plan was that night, one of my friends, Thurston Howell III, is what I call him, Thirst, right? That's not his real name, but that's what we call him. So he took me, he was taking me there, and I was about 2:00 in the morning, and my plan was to get the money out the drawer that I had in there, get in my car, and go back to his house. But I ended up staying there with her, and the next morning, the U.S. Marshals hit that house, and I got locked up.
So they raid that house? They kick that door in?
Yeah.
Okay, so wild. And so that was the last. What were the charges on this run?
Well, I had aggravated assault with causing harm and bodily injury, possession of cocaine, possession of methamphetamine, and possession of marijuana and pills.
And pills. Now this dude went and basically filed a police report that you had beat him up.
Yeah.
But he never mentioned that he was trying to kill you?
Some detectives come talk to him at the hospital, and he told them everything.
So did he get any charges, or what?
You didn't mention anything. Oh, you didn't mention anything about him bringing me some weed, because he bought some weed, but it wasn't what he said he was going to bring. That was the only thing I got from him. And his phone, because he dropped his phone. He hit me with the phone. That's what it was. He hit me with the phone, and then he dropped the weed, which was only like a half a pound of weed. He was supposed to be bringing me 10 pounds of weed. He only bought me a half a pound. So I knew he was. I didn't know at the time, but he was up to something.
So was it your baby mama that ran a grift with this guy?
Well, it was just somebody she knew.
And she decided she was going to take you out?
No, that's what I thought, right? I thought that it's just the way that it happened. I thought that she was like trying to say, yeah, but I lived there with her. I had been living there with her for about 5 or 6 months or whatever.
But she did do this to you though, right? Or did she?
No, she didn't. She just called the guy because I needed something, and he happened to be the guy that she called.
And so this dude was thinking he was going to rob you for, whatever cash you had. Is that what he was doing?
I guess so, man. I really don't know because I had a bunch of stuff on the table, and I did have a pile of money right there, and some no telling what else. And I mean, that might have been. He didn't have no gun. He didn't have nothing. All he had was $80 and a phone.
Wow.
And a half a ton of weed.
Huh. Wow, that's wild. Okay, what year was this that you did this? I guess 14 years ago or something like that.
It was 2000. It was in 2012 when this happened.
2012, and then basically at that point it sounds like Texas threw the book at you, right? I mean, gave you what was it? How many years did they say you were going to get?
They tried to give me 40 years.
Wow. And so did you end up pleading this one down to how did this end up going in court?
I didn't take it to trial, but I paid a lawyer and he got me down to 25. And I wasn't taking it. Right. They dropped it down. They dropped it from 40 to 35 and from 35 to 25. And then I was like, no, I'm not going to take it. So anyways, the girl though that was with me, the reason why I went ahead and signed for the 24, because they gave me 20. I ended up taking 24 because I was trying to get them down to 20 at least. Because I was guilty, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to get them at least down to 20. I was trying to get an even number. And the DA came with 24 and wouldn't go any lower, so I took it. And I think I could have got it down a little bit more, but the reason why I just was like willing to take it was because the girl that I was living with or shacking up with, they were charging her with my dope, right? Because it was her house. And so, but I wrote affidavits and I claimed everything and I took the charge or whatever, but they still got her for an evading arrest because we took the U.S. Marshals on a high-speed chase. So because I did that and when I signed, they finally dropped the charges on the drugs and they dropped the bond and everything, so she was able to bond out, right, on the evading arrest. So they gave her 4 years probation. And I ended up getting 24 years.
Wow. Okay. Noe, so I want to keep these around the time that we're going to do this because I don't want to lose most of these guys in the audience. Curious, I'd like to leave these on a positive note. You've been places that nobody could ever imagine. You've seen things that nobody could ever even describe. What would you leave to those who are listening today as something that is positive that you would recommend them to do based on your experiences in the world that you've seen and the world you've lived?
That's a good one, man. A tough one, right?
Yeah.
So the best way to put it is nobody actually comes to their senses until they hit their knees, right? Till they hit rock bottom. And sometimes that's what it takes. But for everybody else out there that has some type of sense to allow themselves to see or witness or hear about other people's mistakes and what they've been through, take that and learn from it so that you don't make that same mistake, right? Because why put yourself in a position after somebody told you about something and then go and do the same thing? Right. What helped me along the way after all that was, I'm going to say, accepting Messiah, right? Accepting Yeshua HaMashiach and for Jesus Christ, as other people would say, a name, right? But it was what helped me get through. And that's just, man, it's hard to do the right thing. Right. It's so easy to do the wrong thing, but it's the satisfaction that you get from doing what's right that matters to me and what's helped me get through.
Beautiful. Beautiful. All right, my brother. Well, I thank you very much for your time. I thank you very much for the conversations that we've had over the year or so that we've been talking back and forth. And I thank you for being so forthcoming with all of this stuff and trying to give those out there a vision into some just a very cruel world. And I'd like to get you on the podcast again in the near future if you would be available at some point. And I thank you very much, my brother.
Yes, sir. Anytime. I sure will be willing.
All right, my brother. All right. With that, everybody, we'd like to say goodbye from behind the bars. Much love to you all.